Could you please pronounce your name correctly for me?
Fredrik Willberg. That's the way in Swedish.
Okay. And now you are the technician at the Amos Rex. Is it Amos Rex Museum or is it just Amos Rex? Like, how does it even, what's the right terminology for it?
Actually, it's Amos Rex. Amos is the surname of this Amos Anderson person. So yes, it's Amos Rex. We don't really have a suffix for that yet.
Perfectly fine. It's just sort of a question for clarification.
Yeah.
Because like there's like the Met and like, the Guggenheim Museum, like there are these other terms that are put around. So it's just Amos Rex.
Yeah. For the time being, we are quite new, so.
Well, you're not all, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of museums, you're new, but you're not that new. It was what, 2013 when it got started?
Yeah, started, but this facility is since 2018.
Oh, okay. You're really new then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, okay. So just to get some background. So what is your background? Are you a creative person, an artist on your own right, or are you a technician and that's your career focus?
My start is I have an artist background. I never actually continued that. I went to art school and I studied intaglio printing, like this really old school copper plates and so forth. During that time, I got really interested in audio technology. Well, I think I had some kind of ambitions to play in a band, of course. I was really young then. I found some creative things in technology by connecting stuff wrongly. And while I was doing that, I found out that there are a lot of people who has been doing this technical experimenting for a long time in sound. So it's a long story, and well, it's not really complicated, but it has many ends why I ended up doing the things I do right now.
You are welcome to tell as long a story as you would like.
Okay.
Sort of the fun of it is we can hear the nice long stories.
Yes, that's good. There, I tried to do like art stuff myself, but I always ended up connecting cables and well, doing the technical parts. And then I started to, well, this was 98, I think. And
Paint us a little bit of a picture. So where are we? So where were you? How old were you? And then sort of where did this go on?
I graduated from the art school 97, and I think I was something 20. I moved around a lot and I did a lot of different stuff. And this was also in the beginning of the graphic design boom, when people started to have computers and doing desktop publishing and web pages and you name it. So of course I tried it all, doing coding and graphic design. So I ended up being actually I got a job as a art director in this newspaper in Helsinki, and I did that for a year or two, and then I started to do a lot of graphic design, but I don't think I was so good at it. So, and it wasn't so passionate thing for me. So I kind of swapped around completely and started a company. Yeah. What's it called when you rent a rental company? You rent out these PAs and mixer and microphones and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I used to be a roadie. I used to
Yeah.
tour
Okay. Yeah.
around with rock
Yeah.
and roll bands. Totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too. I did
Yeah.
that also. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been a backliner and roadie and stage builder and stuff like this.
Yeah. I was primarily a steel guy and building the staging, and then also the lights were my primary thing. I'm a
Oh,
photographer, so I loved lighting and working with lighting.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been working with some light guys here in Helsinki, but I've actually never done any lights myself. That's the part of the technical part that
It's not as hard as they try to make it sound like it is. Like, it's, point it, put the right diffusion and, the right intensity of light, and you're pretty good. Well,
Mm,
at least when it comes to rock and roll, I mean, that it's not
yeah,
rocket
yeah,
science.
that's true. But I tend to think that the people who are good at doing lights, they are the people who really want to do it, and that makes them good at it. As I really don't want to do it, I wouldn't be a good light designer.
Fair enough. I'm not
Yeah,
very good with audio, but yet I run a podcast,
yeah,
so
but you are good at what you do. It's the point is doing stuff. As long as you do, you are good at it.
indeed. So, okay, so now let's get to, like, the nature of your job currently. It's defined as, hold on the website, it says museum technician.
Yeah.
Give me a, because, like, I translate that a lot of, like, European, places translate things differently than we do in America where I was raised, and, so, like, I would equate that to preparator, but I think it's a little bit different than a preparator.
Well, let's make it even more complicated. As we are a bilingual country, my title in Swedish is museimestare. They also use it in Finnish, this master suffix on these titles. So you have exhibition master and museum master. It's like this. I don't know from where it comes, but that's the thing. In English, it translates to museum technician, and that makes it a little bit more all over the place, so to say, because as title museum technician could actually mean whatever. As long as you are a technician inside a museum, you are a museum technician.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, I would imagine then if you're the museum technician, you probably aren't, like, running Ethernet cables for the offices and things like this.
Well, it might
You're
happen also.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking you're more like an exhibition technician.
Yes, that's the thing I want to do. But obviously, there is a lot of things to do in house also. Everything is aimed towards exhibition. So, for example, if I my responsibility is partly also this building and take care of the running errands. For example, if something is broken, it needs to be fixed. And while we have Corona now and we have no audience in the museum, there's a good opportunity to get a lot of stuff done here. So we don't have to close down for these repair jobs. And there is not a single area of work that I have. I have some routines, but there's a lot of, obviously it changes with the exhibitions also, the main focus of work. But
Well, from what I looked at, like, I looked through some of your exhibitions that you all have had, obviously not many because it's only the last 2 years,
yeah,
but they're very technological heavy from what I noticed. There's a
hmm,
lot of video and installations and sort of these kinds of very tech heavy stuff.
yes.
Like, when you get involved in that, like, this is what I start wondering about. So, like, are you the one dictating, like, saying, "Okay, these are the resources we have," or do curators or sponsors or funders or the artists come to you with different things? Like, so how do you sort of work together with all these different people to, like, pull off the exhibition of a piece of, highly technical artwork?
First of all, we have the proposal, so to say, that we know who are coming here and there, what their wishes are. Then we start to compare our resources with the wishes, and that's where I come in. So I can sit down and say, yeah, this is possible to do with stuff we have in house and with knowledge that we have in house. But it's also equally important to say that this is not possible to do with the resources we have and with the knowledges we have. So yes, my work is partly to be a buffer before we start working to see that, yeah, we need to outsource this, and yeah, and this part we can do, and try to be realistically about this because it tends to change a lot.
Always. Every
Yeah,
exhibition changes from, proposal to final result because I mean, it's not just budget, time, space. It's the sort of, I mean, also like if it gets moved to a different location, even within the museum, you have to change the acoustics of it, the dynamics of where you can hang things. Like I used to work as a rigger also. So like,
Mm.
points where you can hang stuff are not always available. So like you've got to be flexible in many ways while
Yeah.
you're also sort of like trying to keep the artistic vision true.
Yes, and also try to help as much as possible. So if we have living artists, for example, so or living young artists who wants to, they have a vision and they want help with that. So that's also, I see it as a part of my job too.
Okay, wait a minute. I think you may need to take a step back. So your museum takes proposals. So like if I'm an artist, which I am, by the way, I can write a proposal to the museum and it's possible to have an exhibition, or these like curators bring in these, do curators bring in proposals? Like how do exhibitions even sort of built? Like, and then what's your role in that?
We have an exhibition plan that I'm not part of the planning or the future planning procedures, but there are so many examples. For example, we had this exhibition with young artists. They had proposals for works here. So that was the situation where where I could actually help. But then, as another example, there might be a completely fixed exhibition that's coming, and there is no room for improvisations at all. And then there is just it's to compare it to a rock band. You got the rider, which is the wish list. Yes,
Right, right, right.
you have to follow that partly at some points, but it's so dependent on the content.
Have you like I guess my things are like what technologies are really being utilized these days? Because a lot of the people I talk to are very traditional, like including myself, painting,
Mhm.
sculpture, very simple. So like involving technology, like what technologies are really being used? Have they really been like pushing the limits, or are they sort of still using just like straight up video and you're just doing high quality video and that's all?
Well, that's also dependent on how young they are. I noticed with this last exhibition when they were about 20-ish, so they tend to see that, yeah, we know we want these old CRT televisions and VCRs and DVD players.
So the young people want the old equipment,
Yeah, the old crappy stuff that nobody wants to use anymore.
and you have that stuff available.
No, no, we need to source it.
Okay.
But it's nice because that's the thing I really like, especially with young artists, because they really like push the. I will never get bored at my with my job.
I would imagine it's literally like you're sort of a fireman. Like people come to you and say like, "Hey, I need to do this amazing thing.
Yeah.
How do I do it?" And then you just have to
Yeah.
problem solve it. Like,
Yes,
okay,
but that's really nice because obviously I don't have these solutions, but I get to experiment and I get to try out. But, hey, this might be possible, and then we do it. Wow, it works.
okay, yeah, that works. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
and is all this technology, how is it funded? Like, so, like, do the artists bring their own technologies? Do you have? I mean, you said you have some in house, and of course you rent some, but like, how is this paid for? Like, do you have like? I guess it's like, is this something you deal with, or do you just pass that to somebody, a budget person?
Yes, I pass it to a budget person usually, and we have an setup of equipment, which is it's quite good actually. But technology is a strange animal because some things it's you could have some things in your storage, but for example, projectors, televisions, and stuff like this, it's not really sensible to buy a lot of those things and have them stored because that gets old really fast. But then, for example, I tend to reuse a lot of old computers and these small Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but this. It's like a card computer that you can actually program to do whatever you want, more or less. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's really interesting, and it's so I try to have in-house a supply of usable stuff, but I will not try to get the newest, greatest just to have it in storage.
I agree with that 100% because like I'm a photographer by training, and about 4 or 5, well actually technically probably about 7 years ago, I decided not to own my own equipment anymore
Hmm.
because the technology keeps updating, every 2 years you need the newest, the best, the biggest, the whatever. And so I stopped owning and I just rent when necessary because it's just not cost effective to be upgrading technologies every couple
Hmm.
years just because it's the newest stuff, and then storing it when you're not using it and basically losing value on it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the idea of renting it, the newest best equipment when necessary versus owning it is very smart these days.
yeah, and it's ecological also.
Indeed.
But then we have, of course, we have some things that needs to be the newest, the best, especially with these virtual reality things. Then you can't actually do. You need the high-end computer and you need the high-end headset and stuff like this. So
Have you all been creating like virtual tours and things like this?
no, but we have been doing virtual tours, but with Instagram, but not with this, not this real virtual.
But with Instagram, I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know anything about
they
that.
call them these virtual tours that they have. They have a.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that's just like just walking
Yeah,
around the
exactly.
tour. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, okay. No, I'm thinking like an immersive situation, like that, like me at my home, I could put on my Oculus and sort of get a walk around of the museum.
yeah,
Not yet.
not yet, no.
Okay.
But I don't know. It seems to be a quite long lockdown-ish, or it's we don't have a lockdown now, but we are actually closed. So we we might need a virtual tour at some point.
Well, I guess that's sort of the question then is like, because of the world
Hmm.
situation right now, like, is that something that you all are starting to think towards? If obviously at this point you haven't really done much of, but are you starting to think like, okay, maybe we should be investing in trying to do some of these things?
I really can't answer this because I'm not part of that discussion, but it wouldn't surprise me if we have this kind of thoughts.
I so love that you're just like, that's not my job.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that, but I usually don't use that term. I don't even like to say that, but that's too far off for me to speculate around.
Totally fine.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many people in the art world that like they'll just make up some bullshit just to make themselves sound important, and you're just like, no, no, I have nothing to do with that.
but it's safer this way, I think.
It's excellent. I love the bluntness of it all. Now you're in Helsinki.
Yeah.
I mean, how is it? I've never been to Helsinki, mind you. So like, what's the art scene like in Helsinki? Like, I mean, is this a I hear stories, of course, and I read articles, but like, you're on the ground. Like, so is it thriving? Is everything, how's it going?
Well, I would say it's thriving, but my I don't have a deep knowledge in that. But of course, I have my own interests. So considering my own interests, I find it thriving and interesting.
And what is this specific thing? Audio.
Yeah, experimental music and this weird, really weird noises, electronic stuff. That's my love, and this is a good place for this kind of things.
From my American perspective, I would say Scandinavia is a great place for that kind of stuff. Yes.
Yeah, it might be, yes.
Yeah, that we generally perceive that region as electronic music and that kind of stuff is
Mm.
very very prominent up there. All right, do you have any interesting stories about experiences of installing your technological stuff and like things either going amazingly well or things not going as well as you would like and having to work out difficult problems?
Yeah, I don't have a like a straight story to tell you, but obviously as it's an adventure to build an exhibition every time. So the more technical it is, the more of these improvisational situations we stumble upon, and those are really nice. And obviously they always work because we never fail to have an opening. So, and if
Knock on wood. Yeah.
yeah, true. But as long as we have an opening, that the process has been a success, more or less. There is always details to mention about information. It's that's the key ingredients to everything. It's especially when you're talking about technological things, because people tend to be afraid of technology. That's too complicated for me. I don't do it. As long as you can do it, everything is good. But people involved in the process, they could have a slight base knowledge of technology that's required for the exhibition. It makes a difference because it's information is the easiest thing to give, but it's also the most easy thing to forget to give to people that are working with this. Because if you assume things, as long as you assume things, things are going straight to hell.
Oh yeah, there's the old saying that assume is making an ass out of you and me. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
yeah, you did. Yeah, yeah, just communication, strong
Mm.
communication. If yeah, it's very important. I mean, I have a super technical question for you because I am actually really fascinated with the technical stuff. When it comes to the planning of an exhibition, and your focus is audio, like give me a sense of the structure that you're working in. Is it a concrete floors, drywall? Like how do the acoustics play into like the materials that the structures, the exhibition halls are made of, play into your role?
Not so much actually. Mm.
Darn it, I was hoping it was something
Yeah,
important.
because luckily we have really good acoustics here. Because we have a wood floor and a domed ceiling, and the domed ceiling is also covered with this. It's kind of this. I don't know the name of the product, but it's this thick woolly material in the ceiling. So
Yeah, I know this stuff. Acoustic buffering.
yeah, acoustic buffering material. So we have a good acoustic situation, and quite interesting also because of the domed ceiling. So sound tend to travel quite a lot. But sound wise, we don't have so many sound focused exhibitions actually. We have in this ongoing Egypt exhibition, we have a sound design that's made not by us. It's outsourced completely. Yeah, it works well in this space.
Well, okay, wait. That's a question that I've often wondered. Like, do you all ever do any sort of like ambient sounds and things to make it so that like spaces are not silent?
This is the first exhibition where it was actually planned, well planned. There was this Dutch this Studio Drift collective that was they were here also. They had some kind of ambient soundscape also, but it wasn't really thought out, or they didn't inform us really clearly about it. So we had to improvise a little bit with speaker placements while they were here. But my job is not really audio related per se. It's more video, and audio is quite a small part here. The to have knowledge in audio is a good thing, but video is more. I think that's the thing that's there's it's more in demand, so to say.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
museums traditionally are very visual. I
yeah.
get that. So, okay, so how about the technologies that are being used in video projection? What is it that you're using the most? Like, there are certain brands, of course, that I grew up with, but that are different in Europe. So, like, are there certain technological advances that you're finding? Like, so I'm thinking of like short throws and all kinds of other things like this that make a very big difference in the the ability to put a projection in a different type of space as far as the scale of the projection.
Yes, there is so much going on now. Classical, you have a player and a projector and a HDMI cable, connect that. So But now when there is a need for multi-projection, we need to use different kind of connectivity things and synchronizing players, synchronizing screens, and there is no one single way. It changes every time with every exhibition.
So you like it, you don't have like a personal preference of, let's say, like a brand, I don't know, that you're like, oh, this one works really, really well in our space, and it's been very reliable and all that kind of
No,
stuff.
no, obviously we had the first exhibition we had was with this Team Lab, this massless exhibition. So for that exhibition we had a big sponsorship, and because of that we ended up with one particular brand of beamers. But no, I don't have any preferences because it depends on the. I personally am super interested in these mini projectors now. I haven't got hold of them yet, but I would like to experiment with them.
Weren't they called like pixel projectors or something like that?
I don't really know. There are a couple of brands now who, yeah, actually they make them looking like lamps, so you can put them in the lamp railing, which is great. I think it's super. It takes power from the light rail.
Oh yeah, they're quite amazing. I mean, from the yeah, everything from the like micro projectors, like you're talking about, these little handheld projectors,
Yeah,
all the way up to these like massive outdoor projectors. I mean, the technology, between the lumens that they
yeah,
output, everything is so much better than it was, like, even when I was in school 20 years ago. Like, most of these technologies didn't exist. Like, it wasn't even a creative option for me to use these technologies, that now kids are going to school and, like, it's normal to them. Like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we all have a handheld
yeah.
projector," and I'm just like, that didn't even exist when I was in school."
Well, actually, now, when it comes to think of it, if you ask my preferences, I would say that 16 millimeter film is really, really good looking. It's the best I've seen so far.
You said it's 16, so
Yeah,
1 6 millimeter. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
okay, the old
the old
school.
school. Yes,
Okay.
I by chance I just did an exhibition as a freelancer before I started to work here. I did with this Swiss artist. I can't remember his name now, but he had these film loops that were projected on balloons, and the quality and the graininess and the vividness of the colors on that film, I really liked it, and I haven't seen it on video.
What I'm fascinated, because I'm keep hearing from you, old tube projectors, VCRs, 16 millimeter film, but yet your job is technology,
Mhm.
which I obviously wrongly assumed was highest, newest, best, all this kind of stuff. But really, a lot of it, when it comes to like creativity and artistic expression, seems to be not the most expensive, newest, and all this, but it seems to be sort of the things that are the most creatively outputting kind of stuff.
Yeah, it depends so much on who you are working with. For example, if you would be working with these Asian mega projection companies, it would be obvious that you have a demand for the best and the newest equipment because you can't do it with old stuff. But then, well, I was actually working in Amsterdam a month with this Namjoon Pike exhibition, and that was only CRT tube screens, televisions.
Okay, she loves
Yeah,
them.
so that was a step, so to say, backwards for me because I never learned that technology. I never knew anything about that beforehand. So now I know a little bit more of that analog connections and analog video. It's fascinating, really.
Have you ever played with the Fisher Price Pixel
No,
2000?
I haven't.
I used to have 2 of those when I was,
Okay,
in college. Loved those. You would love them with your mix of audio interest and video, because they use old audio cassettes to create visual imagery.
really?
Really.
Wow.
It's amazing. I mean, they're super expensive now because they're very
Yeah,
rare, but they're really cool. Like, it's such a unique output. You wanna talk
nice.
about unique out that's a neat one. But, yeah, you can probably find them on, like, eBay and those kinds of places these days. So, alright. So, when it comes to, like, your planning of an exhibition, where do you come in? So, like, the curator, let's say, will plan it, and then sort of what step in the process do they start involving you?
When everything is on paper and the decisions have been made where placements of pieces and more or less the architecture or design of the exhibition. That's where I come in because then I need to know placement of the walls to figure out where to pull the cables and where to put potential screens or projectors. So sometimes I'm involved from the beginning if it's common knowledge that it's going to be a really visually or AV visually heavy exhibition.
How long does this process take? So, like, from the planning to opening night, how long will a general exhibition at Amos Rex take to get up and running?
Yeah, it can take a year.
I would have expected you to say 2 years, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, Probably with these bigger exhibitions, several years because they need to go all the legal stuff needs to be processed also. But with this, so to say, in quotation marks, normal exhibitions, it's not that long.
An average exhibition, so not a tech-heavy
Yeah,
exhibition.
yeah. But those can be, for example, this René Magritte. It had been a long process to get it here, and that was not a tech-heavy exhibition at all.
No. So, okay, so back to sort of like the nature of your position. So you do like video, audio, and computer related things, it sounds like, but you don't deal with like you're not part of the sort of preparatory staff. So the hanging of paintings and lighting of exhibitions and all that. So that's not your thing.
Well, no, but I'm the one who climbs inside the walls and pulls the cables where it needs to be pulled. So I do physical on and concrete work also. A lot of climbing and hanging in the ceiling.
What do you now you all have like I'm sure OSHA style, like in the United States we have this thing OSHA, like safety and health advisory thing. Like so you're the guy that like puts on the 5 point harness and you like climb in the ceiling and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm supposed to put on the harness, but then
We're all supposed
yeah,
to put on the
yeah,
harness.
yeah. No, no, it's a. I don't play around with that. I don't take unnecessary risks. It's not clever. But sometimes it's impossible to follow the guidelines.
We'll just let that go. I don't
Mm,
feel like getting you in trouble.
no,
So we're not gonna go farther on
yeah,
that. Okay. Now, okay, something that you said you did some freelance work ahead of
yeah.
time, like before getting your job here. So, like, what was the career trajectory? So, like, you get out of school, you're doing audio work. How did you get from that to being a museum
That's
technician?
yeah. It's well, I've been moving around in Finland a lot from city to, or actually on the coastline from between a couple of cities. So I ended up in the archipelago of Finland in the western parts. And I bought a house with my ex-wife there and I lived there for 4 years, which actually meant that I cut my connections to Helsinki quite radically. So I didn't get any freelance jobs anymore from Helsinki and I didn't get any graphic design jobs. So I needed to start to replan what to do. So I ended up doing this audio work. Actually, that didn't bring any food to the table, so to say. So I moved back to Helsinki. When I moved back here, this was actually my third time to start over in Helsinki. So I could get work this architectural museum in Helsinki to just build exhibitions and carry boards and paint walls and do this handyman stuff. So I was working there as a freelancer for a couple of exhibitions, and during this time I noticed that there was a lack in knowledge on this AV technology with video and computers. So I kind of had some. I can't claim that I'm a specialist in anything, but I knew something. So I started to do a little bit of trickery with this video projections, and then I got some questions. Hey, could we do, like, for example, 3 synchronized big screens? And I learned from my uncle. I think he said that if somebody asks you something, never say no, I can't do it. So I said obviously yes, it's possible. And I got, I think, 2 months. So it was a lot of Googling and trying out, but it worked out. So then one thing led to another, and I got another freelance job, and I got a little bit more, and I ended up at Kiasma, our neighboring museum, this museum for modern art. And I was working as an AV technician there. And during that time, Amos Rex was opening their doors, or just before they were opening their doors, my contract ended at Kiasma. So I called this place and asked if they need any help building exhibitions, and I just told them, like, yeah, I can do this and I can do this, but I'm open for everything, and I'm still here. So something worked out, I think.
Well, see, because like part of the reason why like I asked you to be a guest versus, let's say, a curator and stuff is everybody talks to curators. I've talked to dozens of curators. But what I'm also interested in, because I'm a professor, I'm also interested in sort of all the other creative, artistic avenues that sort of come up. Like, 'cause you probably didn't go to school going, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a museum
No,
technician.
no,
Right. But you ended up
yeah,
there and you enjoy
yeah,
it. So it's like, you know, it's one of those stupid things. Like in America, they have this thing of like, if you go to art school, like you're never going to make a living. You're
yeah.
good, like it's a useless degree. And so like for me, I like the idea that basically getting a degree like that can then end up leading to a job that you never could have imagined you might have wanted. And so that's why I find like your job really quite interesting. It sounds like a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot of fun. A, a, a bit of frustration also, but that's obvious. It's probably with all the jobs you have, but this is a dream job, and I also, considering art school background, I don't see myself being so far from my education, even if I haven't studied museum technology per se, but I have a visual background.
I don't think there is a degree in visual
No,
technology.
but it's a big help. I think I've had a lot of help with this, because I know that, well, I'm not claiming that my vision is the correct one, but I trust my eyes, and I think a lot of visual artists actually have the knowledge to trust their eyes and their aesthetical thoughts.
All right. I'm trying to think of some other good questions. I just so you know, I came with no questions whatsoever. I'm just I'm listening to you and I'm trying to think like what else do I want to know about your job? Okay, I know what else I want to know. So like walk me through like a week, let's say. A day is probably too little. So like a week of like what is it you do as a museum technician? Both the mundane stuff and the sort of exciting stuff.
For the moment, I'm actually drawing this, what do you call them, these stands, and I'm drawing them in this Rhino 3D software that I've been teaching myself.
Right.
And
Yeah. Like
yeah,
AutoCAD.
exactly, yes. Calculating areas, mathematical work. And then this morning, I ran downstairs and disassembled a shelf, just to find out that I need to remove 3 huge mirrors, just to figure out that I need to remove the framework that the mirrors were attached to, so that the technicians I called yesterday can access the LED screen that's behind this all. That was this day. Yesterday was a lot of planning and calling around, and now when the museum is empty, I have time to see if something needs to be fixed. And then the other part is we have 2 artists downstairs in our workshops we're actually preparing an upcoming exhibition. So they are actually doing the artworks here in the museum. And I need to clean up a little bit after them. Also a little bit help them because they don't know where stuff is, and organizing. Yeah, my job is quite a big part of my job is organizing stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember as a roadie, one of the most important things is always like there's a box for something, and everything has a box. So everything should be where it should be, and if it's not, that's a problem because then you can't find it when you need it. So like not only should everything be organized, but it should be organized in a way so that theoretically, if you're out sick, that somebody else could easily find it and
Yeah,
access it.
and then this place needs to be organized also in that sense that what's going to happen in 3 weeks when we have a lot of freelancers coming here. It's not the question of how tidy it is, but it's more a question of how will we find space for things that will end up in our museum.
Okay, give me a breakdown. Like in your job, how much of your time do you have to do like bureaucracy and paperwork, and how much of it is sort of hands-on going out and like you said, like to dismantling a mirror thing to get to an LED thing? Like, so how much, because like they always say like artists that we're always in the studio and we don't do a lot of paperwork and business stuff, but in reality we end up doing like 60-70%
Mm.
paperwork and business stuff and very little time in the studio. So like in your job, is a lot of it meetings and bureaucracy and paperwork, or is it a much more hands-on position?
I could claim that during this time when we have a planning of exhibition, I think it's 40% administrative work, not really bureaucracy, but this paperwork and meetings, and the rest is more or less hands-on. And I actually consider this sitting by the computer and drawing stuff to be quite hands-on work also.
I agree with that. Yeah, things like the AutoCAD, that's
Yeah,
hands-on to
yeah,
me.
okay.
Yeah.
But this I don't work so much with budgets and economy, but partly if we need to think about future exhibitions and if we need to buy something, then I'm involved a little bit in the budget. But I don't have a budget responsibility, luckily. So
I was going to say that sounds like a great relief to not have to deal
yeah.
with that. How about, do you have any advice? Because one of the things I always wonder about is like, okay, I have never done an exhibition in a museum. So like if I was an outside artist or any sort of outside person wanting to come in and work with you in the museum, what would you recommend that I know, or some sort of practice that I might want to do to make it go smoothly, let's say?
Trust yourself to be steady with your visual aspirations, your fantasy. Keep it alive. It's everything is possible. We can fix everything, but it needs to be. If the artist is really unsecure and having a lot of maybe this way and maybe this way, then it becomes quite hard to fulfill your wishes if you don't really know what you are wishing for. So in that sense, an advice for artists is that trust yourself, and it's everything is possible.
Right, but there is a fine line on that because you also
Yes.
don't wanna come in there and be, like, arrogant and bossy and be like, "It must be like
Yeah.
this and can't not be that."
No, no, of course, realism with everything. You don't have to be super humble, but for me personally, it's really okay if you're coming and being really cocky. It's quite okay for me, but I know that I might be an exception.
I generally hear, like, n not to be cocky is a smarter move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but we had this fantastic situation with an Icelandic artist, and he came here and he wasn't cocky, but I think we talked for 5 minutes, and he already called me an asshole. So we had this fantastic discussion. We just referred to each other as assholes during the build-up. Just stupid humor, but it was nice because he was secure, and he knew what he wanted, and as did I.
So like confidence, but not
Yeah,
cocky.
confidence. That was the word I was looking for.
Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
one. Is there any topic that we haven't talked about that you want me to sort of ask you about?
Maybe this thing that was quite new for me also, this partly responsibility of the building itself also. Because prior to this, I was always working with problem, like how would you say it? Like I knew what I was supposed to do considering the exhibition. But now I'm also having these issues with the building itself and a lot of like practical that has nothing to do with art at all.
Well, it's something that a lot of people, obviously myself included, because I didn't even think to really ask you much about it. But like, we don't think about the maintenance and the
Mm,
upkeep of just keeping a museum
yeah,
running.
because it's a big part of it. If you have a role to know how a museum works, it means that you know how the building works. Because somebody comes here and needs to connect his or her computer to an internet connection that's in the floor. You need to provide this person with the internet connection to that particular port in the floor.
Well, and you all have sort of the luck slash luxury of that you're a very modern
Yeah.
building. So, there are a lot of museums that don't have those opportunities because they're, historical museums and they can't build all those kind of like intranets and things into the floors and things like this. So how advanced is the technology that sort of was built into the architecture itself?
Well, quite, but it's more of an open framework. No technology is built into the building, but we have this infrastructure of good connectivity in the building. So the ports are present and the cabling is present. So we just add well, that's logical because you add the technology that needs to be added afterwards. But it's also two parts. This building is below ground, and the area we work is a historical building. So immediately when I come upstairs, I'm walking in places that I cannot touch. I can't drill a hole in the wall, and I cannot have different problems upstairs.
Sure. How do you get around those
Well,
things?
improvising and yeah, we need to ask a lot. We need to ask, yeah.
A lot of gaffer tape and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, not really, because safety is a big concern, and if something is haphazardly done, I tend to lose my sleep. So not so much gaffer tape, but more calling people who really know stuff. For example, can we really do this? Can we drill a hole here? We usually get around by asking.
Well, that's interesting because, like, from an outsider's perspective, I have not worked in museums in 20 some odd years. The last museum I worked at was the Smithsonian when I was in college. And the assumption that the general public has is that museums do all their own stuff, that they don't really outsource a lot. So like all the people that work there are the people that run and maintain and do all this stuff. But you're saying that you all have taken up a model of having a lot of sort of outside people sort of influence and assist you
Yeah,
all in running the
yeah,
place.
because there is a lot of people involved in this building because it's new. So we have the architects who have drawn the buildings or the new part of the building, and then the construction, the how do you say it? The people who are in charge of the technical planning, who actually knows where the cables are running.
Engineers.
Engineers, yes, those, and then the more janitor part of the work, the practical guys who come and change the windows or repair a door. I'm not doing that stuff. Partly I'm doing, but there's so much I cannot do that these guys have a better knowledge of. So that's why I think it's the same situation as with any other bigger building. There's a lot of people involved.
And so you as part of your job, it's sort of to
Yeah,
coordinate, not necessarily do it yourself, but like, let's say, I don't know, some speaker blows out or something that you know who to call and where to get a replacement or how to get it repaired or whatever. So it's a lot of putting people together to get the right things accomplished.
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a job that it's yeah, I can't. It's impossible to get bored because no day is the same.
And I'm sure the older the museum gets, the more things are going to start
Mm-hmm.
breaking as
Yes,
time goes on.
yes,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Absolutely. All right. Any last thing you want to bring up? Any last topic?
Not really. No, it was nice talking to you. It's if you ask this question, I get to say them out loud. Also, of course, I'm thinking about them, but I haven't actually talked so much about it with anybody.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.